A very good evening and welcome to Africa and Beyond the Television Network. And this evening, we are reflecting on something which is very, very important happening in the nation South Africa. Julius Malema has responded to the United States of America President Donald Trump. And we need to take a look into this response.
Deputy Speaker, on the 20th of September 2001, former President of United States of America, George Bush, declared what became known as the War on Terror on Iraq and Afghanistan, stating that, I quote, "It will not end until every terrorist group of global reach has been found, stopped, and defeated." What followed was a massive disinformation campaign to justify the 2003 invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan under the pretext of locating and destroying weapons of mass destruction. Decades later, no such weapons were ever found. This invasion was about minerals and oil reserves, not weapons of mass destruction. Iraq and Afghanistan have never recovered. Cuba, Libya, Venezuela, and Chile are examples of nations that have suffered from US interventions because of their socialist policies, justified by false intelligence to advance imperialism. Cuba has endured decades of sanctions for nationalization of strategic sectors of the economy, supporting African liberation and socialism, while Libya was destroyed because Gaddafi rejected US dominance. We raise these historical facts because history must guide us in everything we do. When Donald Trump declares that, I open quote, bad things are happening in South Africa without evidence, we must not assume that the USA is misinformed. Instead, we must question the real intention behind such statement. After Trump's remarks, the US froze foreign aid globally under the pretext of assessing alignment with the policy outlook. For South Africa, this meant PEPFAR funding of HIV/AIDS response was under threat. On 26 February 2025, the freeze became permanent, terminating funding indefinitely. The US aggression towards South Africa is nothing more than Israel's revenge for our moral stance in support of Palestine. Meanwhile, some of us have been labeled international criminals, a designation used before the West assassinates those who opposed its agenda. Before invading the nations, the US always fabricates human rights violation to justify intervention. Today, same tactics are being used against South Africa. The growing calls by right-wing groups for foreign funding to establish independent states and to be armed by foreign interests must be recognized as part of a broader plan. This is the early stage of economic isolation, leading ultimately to military intervention. Next, AGOA will be terminated, escalating tensions between USA and South Africa. Our government must dismiss opportunistic African and racist groups exploiting US imperialism to fund their racist fantasies of an independent state. That will never happen. We will expropriate land without compensation, whether they like it or not. If they object, they can seek refuge in America. Deputy Speaker, Trump and the USA are not demonstrating strength. The USA is merely displaying an advanced stage of capitalism, which is imperialism. Trump engages in transactional and manipulative relationships with the world like it is his backyard. The hostility towards South Africa does not come from fraudulent boers spreading disinformation, but from America's imperialist agenda. The USA, home of the world's most sophisticated intelligence agencies, agencies that fabricate evidence to justify the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, and orchestrated the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi, Patrice Lumumba, Martin Luther King Jr., and Malcolm X, cannot now claim to be victims of disinformation from a minor racist group based in Orania. The USA has openly embraced the golden age of imperialism, extending its power through threats and the prevention and termination of foreign aid. In response, our government foolishly seeks to explain our policies to a maniacal president as if the USA were a victim of misinformation. The USA knows exactly what it's doing and why it is doing it. At a Goldman Sachs event of the 27th of February 2025, South Africa President Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa stated, I quote, Trump got the wrong end of the stick of the country's land policies. I completely reject this notion. The USA, home of Elon Musk's platform, X platform, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, Facebook, Google, Tesla, Starlink, and Silicon Valley, the global hub of data collection, cannot claim to be misinformed. They are the greatest perpetrators of disinformation. The USA is the greatest perpetrator of disinformation. It is now using its own falsehood as justification to attack South Africa. This government refused to acknowledge the real issues. We are being punished for supporting Palestine against apartheid Israel, nothing else. The USA does not believe there is a white genocide or land grabs in South Africa. These lies are useful tools to justify economic aggression and seek to weaken our moral authority to condemn Israel's genocide. Foreign aid has always been a tool for Western imperialism and control. It must end with South Africa. We must expand our trade and strengthen relationship with China, India, Russia, Brazil, and Singapore, while emphasizing African unity. The USA is on a full mission to extort the world into submission, and as a result will become increasingly isolated. Our sovereignty, security, and economic prosperity on rejecting the American Golden Age, a project of imperialism. The world must move forward without the USA if true progress is to be achieved. We are not the puppets of the USA. We will never be bullied by Donald Trump and his friends. South Africa remains an independent state, which is not handled by the USA. The majority of South Africans love their whites. They worship them everywhere they go. Why will they kill them? They always seek white validation and affirmation of whiteness. It is a black talent. It is a black talent. It is not a black talent until white people say so. If it is a black skill or innovation, it is not until white say so. If it is black quality product, it will have to pass many hands before they endorse this product. Any political party without white endorsement will never receive any electoral support and financial support until white establishment says so. Like the Cuban people will never give up on our freedom against American imperialism. We must unashamedly continue to stand with Palestine and Russia. We are product of international solidarity. We are Palestinians and they are Africans. We will die shoulder by shoulder with Palestinian people. We will be buried next to their graves because no amount of American bullying and financial dictatorship will separate us. Not even death will succeed. From the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. We are not product of land theft or genocide. We are not grabbing any land, but claiming what rightfully belongs to us. We are not engaged in what genocide. Instead, we are coexisting with our white murderers. Whatever it takes, this land shall be expropriated and will be returned to its rightful owners. Victory is certain. Hasta la victoria siempre.
So this is what Julius Malema has said, and we need to take a look also on the side which has been taken by ActionSA, and let us take a look.
That we are having this debate today is a tragic legacy of 30 years of ill-considered and ill-fated choices made by this government. Churchill said about Britain's decision to sign the Munich Agreement in 1938, and I quote, "You've been given the choice between war and dishonor. You have chosen dishonor, now you will have war," close quote. The ANC have systematically chosen dishonor in their one-eyed international relations, and now we are going to suffer the consequences of these choices. Again, the fashionable acronym FAFO springs to mind. You've told Trump to leave us alone. One of your GNU ministers stood here and gave him the finger. Now we are alone. Now, Lady Pandor did everything conceivable to insult, infuriate, and alienate the USA while she was the Minister of International Relations. Yet she was the first to encourage the government to send envoys as quickly as possible to try and salvage our relationship with the USA. Amazing. Nomvula Mokanyana infamously said, "When the rand falls, we'll pick it up." When are you going to pick up the rand? The president said, "I'd rather be seen as a weak president than split the ANC." Well done, you've achieved both. But look what your philosophy of putting the party first and the country second has bequeathed us. You will blame AfriForum and Solidariteit for Trump's punitive executive orders and possible repeal of AGOA. The scapegoating, though convenient, doesn't hold any water. Incidentally, who the hell do AfriForum, Solidariteit and the DA think they are anyway? Who granted them SA envoy status to go cap in hand to canvass for the protection of minority rights in the USA? Something that never existed for majorities before 1996. These protections in our Constitution and Bill of Rights far exceed the protections of minorities in the USA. A former leader of the opposition wrote this weekend that AfriForum has been peddling years-long racially divisive disinformation campaigns. Where are the real SA envoys? Javier Milei recently said at Davos, and I quote, "Argentina faced 100 years of systematic economic failure as a result of taking weak stances on major global conflicts and as a result of having closed ourselves off to trade. We lost practically all international significance. Argentina has been infected by socialism for too long, and that it would once again embrace the ideals of freedom, defense of life, liberty, and private property," close quote. The world has embraced Argentina's commitment to these ideals and as an example of fiscal responsibility to their collective advantage. Yet, you have chosen the exact opposite and wonder why we are facing global isolation, distrust, and unprecedented poverty. Milei also said, and I quote, "The only thing that socialism produces is poverty," close quote. Yet we steadfastly adhere to this failed philosophy. We have become so dependent on foreign aid from wherever we can get it that the termination of US aid and PEPFAR will have deadly consequences. You couldn't balance your budget 2 weeks ago, and now you've got an additional 8.7 billion rand for HIV/AIDS program shortfall. Have your newfound international friends and the US enemies Iran that you were posing with this week and our BRICS partners offered any assistance? No, I thought not. Because they've been beating a path to the Oval Office to ingratiate themselves with the New World Order Tsar. And they aren't interested in our self-inflicted wounds. They will only compound our economic travails and poverty. It's time to reevaluate our so-called non-alliance stance, pick a side in the New
Honourable
World
Member,
Order,
your time
or face
is now
further
expired.
calamity.
Thank you.
So if you look at it, South Africa is actually in trouble because the ANC itself is incompetent. The DA and the ANC, they are not in agreement. The GNU is actually failing. When you look at it, it seems as if the MK, the EFF, and other political organizations, they've taken a same stance, while these other left political parties like ActionSA, DA, they've taken another stance. This is very, very dangerous for South Africa. So we are going to continue to watch and see, but this is the beginning of the fall of Cyril Ramaphosa. He thought that the GNU was going to save him, but it won't. Cyril Ramaphosa had an opportunity to sign the land expropriation bill in the past years, but he failed to do so. He listened to some other quotas and some other people and failed to act in time, and now he is acting under pressure. So this is what is happening. Julius Malema responded to American President Donald Trump, and also ActionSA had to weigh in and to give their own insights and views regarding the whole issue which is happening between South Africa and the United States of America. This is what we have for you. Let us meet in other episodes.